We now return to our top story. Prime Minister introduced us to the astronauts of the Gaganyaan Mission. To talk about this flagship mission, joining me are two special guests, Dr. S.V. Sharma, former Deputy Director of ISRO, and Mr. Ajey Lele, a space expert from the IDSA. Good evening and welcome, gentlemen. Dr. Sharma, if I can come to you, there are many recent milestones of India's space program. Chandrayaan-3, of course, the most recent. Now all eyes are on the Gaganyaan mission. How is it expected to take it to the next level?
Gaganyaan mission is a very unique mission, and it's the first time the country is trying to send an astronaut to the space. Okay, and the challenging task is that we have to take an astronaut safely and also bring him back. This is a big challenge. Therefore, there are international laws which are applicable whenever we are sending an astronaut to the space. It needs to ensure that the astronauts are trained very thoroughly from the physical, mental, psychological fitness, and they have been selected during 2018-19, and they have undergone very, very rigorous training of going to space and staying there for days and then come back. Okay, this is one part. Second part is, as far as the mission is concerned, it is required that we take the crew module and the service module, what we call it as crew module and the service module. Crew module is where the astronauts are going to sit. A service module is where the complete system, support system will be existing. Three consecutively, the crew module and the service module without the humans, only with the minuscules, what you are seeing now, will be taken to the space, and they have to be safely brought back. This is one of the biggest challenges and the requirement from the international space community point of view. Okay, even before that, the astronauts have to be safely ejaculated from the rocket. If ever anything happens on the launch pad, that's what we call as pad abort test. So the pad abort test has also been done successfully by the ISRO scientists during 2023 end, and now the next three mission will be unmanned space mission, exactly similar to one which is going to happen with the astronauts on board. So the complete preparation is on, and that's what you are seeing on the screen now.
Right, Mr. Ajey Lele, only three countries, United States, Russia, and China, have been able to send human space missions. How do you assess the inherent challenge in a mission of this kind, and what is going to be unique about India's Gaganyaan?
You see, as far as India's mission is concerned, it is a well-conceived mission. We have taken our own time, because if you see the clockwise things happening, Russia and US had done it many years back. The Chinese went to the space, the human flights, in the year 2023. But India progressed very gradually, number one. Number two is that we first ensured that our requirements of remote sensing, requirement of communications, requirement of meteorology are first getting fulfilled. And then only we started looking at missions like this. And even for such missions, we started by sending robotic crafts one by one, learning more about the things, also learning from the experiences of all the three countries when they have sent the people out over there. As far as the interesting part of India's mission is there, as it was even mentioned today morning also, that most of the components, most of the systems are made in India systems. So now India can be proudly saying that it's not only Indian astronauts who are going to the space, they are going in the systems which have been built in India, and more importantly, which have been designed in India. I think what we have learned more over here is both the technology and science behind sending the humans to the space. Because sending a robotic craft or sending a robot inside a particular mission is a very easy task in a relative terms.
Right.
Because at that point in time, you're not concerned about the medical parameters. You're not concerned about oxygen. You're not concerned about environmental conditions under which the astronauts are going to work out. So these are the different challenges which were there. So we ensured that all these areas are first knit together, and then only now we will be venturing out with a human mission in the next year.
Right. Dr. Sharma, how does space mission, you were telling us about a little more on that, how does it really test the limits of human capacity, and what does it mean for the astronauts to prepare for such a challenge?
Well, very good question. One is that the humans are designed to stay in an atmospheric condition. But when the astronauts, they go to space, it is a zero gravity, and it also has a very challenging environmental conditions. Plus, the position which they are going to sit and the amount of degree of freedom what they are going to have in the space is very, very limited. Totally 5 to 6 days. Please imagine that a person has to sit in his chair 5 to 6 days, not much of movement, not much of room to get up, stand up, etc. And there is, gravitational zero gravity effect. And also there are other issues in terms of space radiations, etc. is there. Of course, sufficient protection and the shielding, everything is available. But even then, it will not be as conducive as that of a person staying in the Earth with the type of air conditioning.
And sir, they'll be orbiting the Earth. They'll be orbiting the Earth, as we understand, for 3 days.
Yes.
What are the provisions for food, for medical supplies? What are the things they would need during the mission?
Yes, the complete kit for a astronaut to stay in space for 5 to 6 days and extendable by 2 days is made available in the crew module and can link to the service module. As far as food is concerned, there are very specialized, foods with proteins and vitamins and all those types of requirements that a human needs with very, specialized preparation as you have limitation in the space, and also there are issues of the waste disposals. Okay, therefore there are sufficient food in quantity which are taken in the crew module and the service module, and the oxygen supply and the water, and also the provision for disposal of the waste. So this has been thoroughly addressed and it is taken care. As we always say, space is not just the electronics, mechanical or electrical. It is also the medical and the medical related aspects of the space mission is tested to the extent when we are taking astronaut to space.
Right. Mr. Lele, if you could help us simplify the stages of this mission as well. For a layperson, we understand there's going to be a launch, then the orbiting of the Earth for 3 days, and then the crucial coming back to Earth safely. How is each of these stages crucial?
You see, all over the world, there are two types of models, broadly speaking, of going to the space and getting back. The one model which was used by the United States of America, the space shuttle model, where you sit inside an aircraft, take off from the runway, get airborne, subsequently get spaceborne, stay in the space, then again enter the Earth's atmosphere and land on the runway. But what India is following is basically a Soyuz type of a model, which is more close towards the Russian type of a model, where you are being put into the space, but while getting back to the space, you are not coming as an aircraft. So there is a direct drop-down activity which happens in Indian case, it's going to happen in the seas, so which will happen in a designated landing zone. So there the landing will happen. As it was explained earlier, that's why the challenges are more in these types of models, because you are continuously in a sitting posture for a good amount of a time. And for the astronauts to get trained for those purposes is extremely important. And that's the reason now, if you can see that all the astronauts who have been selected are the pilots of Indian Air Force, and more importantly, they're the test pilots. So it's a deep selection process under which people have undergone. So their understanding of both technologies as well as their physical capacities all have been taken care of. So particularly for the missions like a Soyuz type of a model, more amount of training is required, and astronauts are required to be totally physically fit, because there is hardly any activity or any scope for making some more amount of motions or moving around here and there. And now what happens is that since you do not have a space station, normally what happens is today when the astronauts, particularly the Western astronauts, when they go to the space, they just link their spacecraft to the International Space Station and enter inside the space station. Again, a zero gravity atmosphere, but a controlled atmosphere for many years, and people exactly understand how to move around over there and do the routine activities. But in this case, it's only a craft, the spacecraft which goes to the space, and that only gets back. So there's very little scope for undertaking any sorts of activities.
Right. And Mr. Lele, finally, in the larger context, Gaganyaan is a big highlight, but the manner in which the space sector in the country has transformed, how do you assess the recent reforms from opening up the sector for direct foreign investment to the rise of space startups? How are they all coming together to give India's space sector the shape as we see it?
You see, what happens is that now if you see India's space policy, last year we have come out with a space policy which has clearly identified the roles of the government of India, that is the Department of Space, the role which will be played by ISRO. Then you have what agencies which have been specifically made to undertake the business proposals also. At the same time, now we have got a lot of startups which have boomed up into Bangalore, Hyderabad area, and they're doing a wonderful job. In fact, a couple of months back, one of the startup has already undertaken a sounding rocket launch, and a few other systems already have been tested. Now, recently, only just 3-4 days back, Government of India has announced the policy 100% FDI into the space sector. That also is going to make certain amount of a boom. In fact, the moment this policy was announced, there has been almost 7% increase into the stock value of various space agencies, the private space agencies which are working out. One more aspect is that we have already established a system where the PSLV, which is known as ISRO's workhorse, which is continuously undertaking launches. Now the commercial launches which are required and which ISRO was undertaking will be undertaken by the private agencies.
Right.
So ISRO is sharing the knowledge, sharing the technology with private agencies. They will be now undertaking the PSLV launches. That is going to bring more amount of revenue. Then we have developed a small satellite launch vehicle also, which again is going to boost up because most of the requirements of the satellites in modern day world, particularly when you're looking at satellite based internet and other things, is small, mini, micro satellites. So to carry those types of satellites, we have already developed another vehicle, that is SSLV, and we are going to upgrade the activities of a SSLV also.
Okay.
So more amount of a market which is going to emerge into these sectors.
Exciting developments in the India space sector. On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Ajey Lele, Dr. S.V. Sharma, for joining us in the News Hour and sharing your perspective.